It would feel weird to ask yourself if you are ready to upgrade your current PC, because the more appropriate question you should ask is, can you buy parts at MSRP to upgrade? With all the scalping situation going wild in US marketplace, many people are still holding themselves from giving money to scalpers, and I believe that is the best practice we should do. Many of you have probably seen benchmarks of Cyberpunk 2077 or even finished the game. I have spent 80 hours on this game and still have so many side quests to do. With the update 1.06, CD Projekt Red has fixed many bugs. Well, not all of them. But the games have been running great on my system, so I think it should be okay to have some benchmarks with some last generation hardware that I currently own. I got this Strix 1080 Ti OC in October 2017 for $700 on Craigslist when miners were hunting down all the GTX 1060s or 1070s, and I am still happy to have this investment for gaming. It does show its age at 1080p with games like Cyberpunk, Control or Red Dead Redemption 2, but with 11GB VRAM, this card can still hold its value in used marketplace. Without ray tracing, the 1080 Ti can be expected to have close performance to the RTX 2080, RTX 2070 Super, or the RX 5700 XT. The i9-9900K was deleted and overclocked to 5GHz. The only reason that you want to buy this chip is you already have a compatible motherboard and want to upgrade. The latest generation Intel CPUs are always in stock, so you can grab a 10900K if you want. For RAM, I go with 32GB Trident Z RGB Neo with a speed of 3600MHz CL18. The game is also installed on an NVMe SSD to save me some loading time. Now, here's the graphic settings I have for the game. Chromatic aberration and motion blur are turned off because they make the game look like
dog ass.
I still don't know why effects that screw with people's eyes are a good idea. All the settings are set to high except the 3 settings that can heavily affect graphic performance: volumetric fog resolution, screen space reflection quality, and ambient occlusion. Turning those 3 off give me extra 10 FPS while it doesn't disturb the beauty of the game. Well, at least for me. Welcome to Night City. I am using NVIDIA Shadowplay to record the game footage. I already checked if recording the game can affect the frame rate. Yes, by about 3 FPS. So, unless you really care about the 3 FPS loss, you can record the game while playing with Shadowplay. On the top left, we have the CPU and GPU information from MSI Afterburner. This is one of the busiest areas in Night City where different types of NPCs are spawned here, so you can see my CPU usage is jumping up and down. The GPU stay nearly at 100% all the time, so we don't have to worry about CPU bottleneck with this system. In fact, if you need better recording quality, you can actually use OBS to losslessly record your video because the CPU still have some extra headroom. Right now I am standing still and my FPS is between 69 to 71. Remember the 3 settings that can reduce frame rate I mentioned before? Let's set them to high and see how the game looks. The FPS is now below 60. If you use a 60Hz monitor, the change might not be noticeable, but for a 144Hz monitor, I can clearly see the difference. And I think the FPS was sacrificed for nothing because I could not see the differences between before and after. However, if you don't like those settings to be completely off, you can change them to medium and play it at higher frame rate. I have not completed the game, but there is one mission that I suggest keeping those settings off because this mission would lower the FPS
by a lot.
starting to move. Remember to be careful or you will face Arasaka drones. I also spotted the Netrunner in her Arasaka uniform. She is somewhere, hidden.
Okay, good to go.
Then let us begin. You must reach all snipers before Hanako-sama's float appears.
You probably saw this in one of the Cyberpunk demos or trailers, and this is my most favorite scene of the game. Everything looks beautiful, and this is with volumetric 4 resolution, screen space reflection quality, and ambient occlusion disabled. There are many things need rendering: the crowds, the floats, fireworks, so I believe this mission is the one that tanks frame rate most in the game. And now, by just moving around a bit, the FPS already dropped below 60. The crowd NPCs are still stupid and get panicked for no reason if I use dodge skill. With a beautiful scene like this, these NPC bugs and weird behaviors really ruin the immersion of the game. CD Projekt Red promised to release more bug fixes, and we could only wait and see.
Come on. Waste of words. I have this scroll. You can't treat people this way.
Walking across the bridge causes the frame rate to go down as low as 50 FPS. Imagine what it feels like to play the game on an Xbox One or PS4. I would open YouTube on those consoles and watch people with high-end PCs playing the game. So, for Cyberpunk 2077, the Intel Core i9-9900K can handle the game just fine. For the GTX 1080 Ti, with some minor graphic changes, you can enjoy the beauty of the game with high setting at 60 to 80 FPS. But of course, for some heavier scenes like this, expect to get 50 FPS. If you follow my channel, you are already familiar with my second system powered by the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. AMD 5000 series CPU are also suffering from stock issue due to scalping. If you can't get yourself a newer CPU, hunting for a 3000 CPU is not a bad idea. According to CD Projekt Red, the minimum requirement to play Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracings at medium settings is an RTX 2060 at 1080p and DLSS. The RTX 2070 can run the game at high FPS without ray tracing, but the game would look a bit blurry, depends on the setting you choose. The graphic setting is just similar to the 1080 Ti's. Everything is set to high except those three things. Ray tracing is turned on, but ray trace reflection, shadows, and lighting are disabled so that we can test the DLSS performance without ray tracing. DLSS is set to quality. You can also set to balance, but there's no difference between the two. For benchmark, let's go straight to the play it safe mission. Compared to the GTX 1080 Ti, the RTX 2070 is a weaker graphic card. However, thanks to DLSS, the frame rate is constantly above 60 FPS without any noticeable difference. And with it, we can get higher FPS than the 1080 Ti with the same settings. The Ryzen 7 3700X also has no problem running the game, even though it is capped at 4 GHz. Using DLSS means we need to sacrifice clarity for frame rate, but by how much? The best way to see the difference is looking at yourself in the mirror. It is easy to see that the character looks uncomfortably blurry, and this is understandable because the game is upscaled to 1080p from a lower resolution. Disabling DLSS will bring back the clarity to the game, but the frame rate has dropped from 90 FPS to 60 FPS. Let's check how this card performs with ray tracing is turned on. Back to the play it safe scene. For ray tracing, I think the reason people buy RTX cards is the reflection effects, so we can test on that. You can look at this water puddle. Without ray tracing, we can only get some general reflection like other games, nothing special. I will turn on reflection. You can choose between reflection and shadows, but don't touch lighting because it would hammer the FPS significantly. We also need to change DLSS from quality to balance. The more we go to the right, the blurrier the game becomes. Here is how the true reflection looks. We can see the lanterns hanging above, the reflection of the LED lights and NPCs standing nearby. The stock game already looks great, but the reflection can truly beautify it even more. But of course, it can cause us to lose FPS. By turning on ray tracing, our FPS is cut by around 30. This area does not have many reflection to test, so let's go to another place. I will try entering a busy area with many activities. We are currently sitting around 50 FPS, so the frame rate drop is very noticeable. At night, the game looks great with lighting and reflection, but the FPS does ruin the experience a bit for me. Going further, the FPS can go below 50, and at this point, it is up to you to decide if keeping ray trace reflection on is worth it. After all, RTX 2060 and RTX 2070 are considered the low-end RTX cards, and some graphic setting changes would be needed for a better experience. Talking about low-end tech, I want to see if I can actually run the game on this laptop. The laptop is equipped with a 4-core i5-7300HQ CPU and a 4GB GTX 1050 graphic card, so it is below the minimum recommended spec for the game. Here's the settings for the game on this laptop. In Gameplay tab, we need to set ground density to low. I kept film grain, depth of field, and lens flare on because they don't affect the performance. All the settings are set to low. I don't touch resolution scaling for now, but I will check it out later. But similar to DLSS, they will upscale the game from a lower resolution to achieve higher frame rate. And of course, 720p would be the resolution to test. The frame rate is around 44 FPS when walking around the street. Gotta say, I would not call this a playable experience, but I used to play GTA 5 on my own laptop at this frame rate. The GPU usage is maxed out at 100% while the CPU hovers between 80 and 100%. I will try the resolution scaling feature and reduce it from 100% to 65% of the current resolution. Now if you look at the GPU usage, you will see the GPU load has been reduced from 100%, but the CPU load increases to 100%. This is called CPU bottlenecking, which we should avoid, and the FPS does not seem to change much. Not only that, the game becomes blurrier. It's time we YOLO to the play it safe mission and see how this laptop performs with these settings.
I am in position. The floats have started to move. Remember to be careful or you will face Arasaka drones. I also spotted the Netrunner in her Arasaka uniform. She's somewhere hidden.
Okay, good to go.
Then let us begin. You must reach.
I feel sorry for my laptop because it is begging me to stop. At this point, I think you should look for some mods which can help increase the frame rate on your machine. You should also consider checking out Low Specs Gamer's video, which he explains clearly how to modify the game. I'll have links to his video and to some FPS mods in the description. 2021 is predicted to be a rough year to buy new hardware, so I hope this video can be useful to some of you. If you cannot get your hands on the latest GPU or CPU, last generation tech can still provide you with viable options. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.